This is a story about a Hoosier that illustrates why soldiers need training. Nelson Grills grew up in Hammond, Indiana. After the war, he would move to Indianapolis and become an attorney. But during World War II, there was this constant threat of German soldiers secretly landing on the east coast of America, dropped off by Nazi U-boats. On July 14, 1943, Lieutenant Grills, who had been piloting a blimp for only a few months, left the Richmond Naval Air Station near Miami with another blimp whose pilot had flipped a coin with Grills. As a result of that coin flip, Grills headed toward the Keys on regular submarine patrol as the other blimp headed north toward Palm Beach. Now, when Grills spotted a submarine about midnight, he decided to attack it instead of waiting for help because he knew that U.S. tankers would be approaching soon from the north. He said later, "I figured losing one blimp was cheaper than two tankers." So he dropped 2 depth charges, something he had never done before, and the sub answered with shots that put holes in the envelope of the blimp. And so it sagged and descended and finally settled on the water. Now Grills stayed with the blimp, guarding its equipment, and was rescued by a submarine chaser. Out of his 9 crew members, 8 of them were picked up by another blimp, but 1 of them drowned. Now, Grills was first threatened with a court-martial, but in the Army way, he instead received a Purple Heart. So to summarize, the only American blimp lost during World War II was piloted by a Hoosier who had never received training in tactics, never before had dropped a bomb, and was at his location because of the flip of a coin. Ironically, when Lieutenant Grills finished his hospital stay, he was assigned to supervise blimp training exercises in the Atlantic. So, Army. In this video, we will see the importance of being trained well and being ready for battle. Hi, I'm Jim Taylor. Welcome to In Favor Resources and this is the 5th video in this teaching series titled, We Are an Army in Indiana. Now that's based on a prophecy by Chuck Pierce as he looked at our state, and we are now drawing comparisons between armies in history and armies in America and in Israel and Indiana, because we can look at these points of comparison and say, well, if it was true for that army, it's true for our army as well. So you'll want to download the handout at infavorresources.com. You're looking for video number 5, and the title of this is Declaration number 4, We Are Trained and Ready for Battle. So far, we've seen that we obey our commander, we wear protective armor, we carry deadly weapons, and now, in Indiana, we are trained and ready for battle. Our weapons and our armor will not avail unless we are properly prepared for the conflict. And the Bible often speaks of soldiers who were educated in the art of war. For instance, on your handout there, David, the great warrior, said in Psalm 144, "Praise be to the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." And again, he says in Psalm 18, "He trains my hands for battle." Genesis 14, let's go back to the beginning of the Bible. This story tells how Abraham rescued his captive nephew, Lot, by calling out the 318 trained men who had been born in his household. And they pursued the kidnappers as far as Dan. And during the night, it says Abraham divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them, and recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other people. He had men in his household properly trained and ready at the drop of a hat to go into battle and to win. Continuing in 1 Chronicles 5, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh had 44,760 men ready for military service. These are able-bodied men who could handle shield and sword, who could use a bow, who were trained for battle. And once more, 2 Chronicles 26, Uzziah had a well-trained army, ready to go out by divisions according to their numbers as mustered. The total number of family leaders over the fighting men was 2,600. That was not the army. That was not the soldiers. That was the leaders. Under their command was an army of 307,500 men, trained for war, a powerful force to support the king against his enemies. Now, when God looks at us, he sees an army. The prophecy says so. In Indiana, we are a powerful force. We are ready for service. We are prepared for the battle. During World War II, an enemy combatant, but much respected by the American Army, named Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, we call him the Desert Rat, he said this: "The best form of welfare for the troops is first-rate training." You can't substitute anything else. The old hymn says it this way: "Lead on, O King eternal, the day of march has come. Henceforth in fields of conquest thy tents shall be our home. Through days of preparation, thy grace has made us strong." That's what training does for you. And now, O King eternal, after those days of preparation, after that training, we lift our battle song. Somebody once said, respect the training, honor the commitment, and cherish the results. Here are some questions and thoughts and applications down for that section that's blank on your handout. It gives you some room there to apply this to yourself and to Indiana today. Did you ever undergo specific training for a job or for a specific task or skill or an athletic team or some kind of intellectual endeavor? And of course, if you're a veteran, you recall the vigorous training you received. You should tell your story. And if you know a veteran, you should ask them to tell their story. But how would you compare that to the training in your Christian life and growth? Would you consider yourself well-trained and ready? Why or why not? Now, Scripture speaks of being trained in terms of by a teacher in a religious tradition, as an athlete, as children, to be godly, in righteousness, in discernment, and by being disciplined. So the Bible seems to talk about training in ways that consider it very important, and I'm sure that Lieutenant Grills would agree. So what can you do to ensure that you are properly trained for the battle, or that if you are, that you are helping to train others? Muhammad Ali said, "I hated every minute of training, but I said to myself, don't quit, suffer now, and live the rest of your life as a champion." And he did. Next video. Because we are an army in Indiana, we know who the enemy is. Hope you'll come back for that one.